Alright, let's just get this out of the way right now. This video is not about a ghost. It's about a memory. Or better said, the memories that one man had about the woman that he loved with all his heart until his dying day. As such, those of you who were hoping that this video might be about George Burns' dearly departed wife visiting him from the grave, well, you're going to be disappointed. No doubt about it. Still, there is a wonderful story here. George and Gracie Allen's partnership, both in show business as well as in life, well, it was legendary. However, before we get into all that, I do have a confession to make. And that is, when I was a kid, I didn't know anything about Gracie. And all I really knew about George was that he was the old funny dude who played the Almighty in that movie with John Denver. And I did think that he was pretty darn good in going in style with Art Carney as well. I also remember him being on The Muppet Show or something like that. And then there was that movie with Brooke Shields. Let's just forget about that one. My point is this, aside from a handful of movies in the late 70s, I knew nothing about George's lengthy career, much of it with his comedic partner and the woman of his dreams, Gracie Allen. You know, these two were about as perfect of a couple as we've ever seen in Hollywood. First in movies, and then on radio, and finally on television. Yep, I've said it before, but I will say it again. When you're on the cover of TV Guide, well, forget that Star of Hollywood Walk of Fame stuff. The cover of TV Guide is the sign that you've really made it. And while they were making people laugh in front of the screen, they were also discovering the joys and heartaches that come with raising a family with their two adopted children. And through it all, George and Gracie were the best of friends. It was true love. I remember hearing George once say that Gracie wasn't with him because he was a macho man or a great lover, but rather that she loved him so much because he made her laugh. I also remember hearing George confess that in the beginning, as the two of them crafted their act, he had envisioned that he would be the funny one. However, when they tried it out on stage, the laughs were fairly sparse. Still, from day one, it was clear that audiences loved Gracie almost as much as George did. And so, when they switched things around and made George the straight man, they were an instant hit. After decades in the spotlight, Gracie told George that she wanted to retire and focus on her health and life outside of show business. I can only imagine that George was a little bit nervous about that, the idea of being solo again. He loved performing, and he just wasn't ready to let go of that part of his life. But would audiences accept him without Gracie by his side? And then the worst thing possible happened. Any thought of Gracie ever returning for a command performance alongside her husband was dashed in 1964 when she passed away, leaving George absolutely heartbroken. Now let me just state for the record, George was not a perfect husband. In fact, during their time together, he had a brief affair that he deeply regretted. But through both the good times and the bad times, they talked about everything. And that didn't stop when Gracie passed away. Yep, the memories of Gracie, well, like I said, they haunted George. Not in a bad way, it was just that they were always there. Simply put, he couldn't stop thinking about her. It was almost as if she were still with him. In fact, from everything that I can tell, I think George believed that she was. It was for that reason that without fail he would visit Gracie on a weekly basis to chat and fill her in on everything that was going on. Despite playing God in the movies, George really wasn't much of a religious feller. That said, he was a deeply spiritual person, and he really felt like Gracie was somehow able to hear what he was saying during his frequent visits, and he truly believed that they were connected and that someday they would be together again. So this takes us up to the late 70s and early 80s, where George's career had once again skyrocketed, and an entire new generation of TV and moviegoers had discovered him. And George was loving it. The only problem was that my generation didn't know anything about Gracie. And how could we? It had been well over a decade since her death when Burns' career was revitalized by his Academy Award-winning performance in Neil Simon's The Sunshine Boys. So George, well, whenever he got the chance, he would talk about Gracie. Rare is the interview where the topic of the love of his life isn't brought up. And to this day, after having read and listened to hundreds of interviews, I have yet to find a single one where George has said anything that could even be perceived as slightly negative about his wife. In short, he adored her, and he absolutely loved being haunted by her memory. Theirs was a love story that was worthy of all the praise that was heaped upon the book that Burns wrote about their life together, and it was truly a fitting tribute. And in 1996, George finally got his wish. The haunting stopped because at long last, he and Gracie were together again. Alright, that's it. What are your memories of George Burns and Gracie Allen? Please share them in the comments section. And while you're at it, I'd love a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. And what the heck, why not subscribe to my channel? I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.